Right.
but something that definitely has sequels, many of them, the
Mhm.
James Bond franchise, that is
Certainly
dramatically
cheeky.
different in the Roger Moore era than what original creation would be,
Super true.
um, is it's gotta be would have to be weird for Ian Fleming, for a creator or
Yes.
for anyone that was around reading the novels as they came out to then see these movies explode on screen and then change so dramatically.
Mhm.
Um, to really like so it's an interesting discussion, just like what makes a Bond film? Why are these movies allowed to so dramatically shift and we still love them over time? Because
Mhm.
we have changed standards. And I can
Mhm.
you imagine a franchise now that would go from a movie that was like, you know, pretty serious in a lot of ways, like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, to
Mhm.
before you know it, you're in, I don't know, The Spy Who Loved Me and the Octopussy and then A View to a Kill and like you just Man with a Golden Gun. We got three nipples. It's just like I don't know. It's just so radically changed, and
Yeah. I
are
mean,
we?
I'm
So we're talking Octopussy, but are we good with it? Like, how do you feel these movies are tone wise? Like, does it bother
I'm
you?
not I'm not gonna lie, Roger Moore's always been the hardest for me. The cheek is I mean, and it's just exemplified. It's just everywhere in Octopussy. I mean, even the name, I mean, come on. It knows what it's doing. But there's so much innuendo and so much, punning and so much just, one-liners thrown around that don't need to be. Octopussy is so excessive of all of that. It's not even a parody. It's not even, a nod to itself anymore. It's just so over the top for me.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean there aren't things I liked or there weren't moments, but there were so many eye rolls from me because it felt like we at times in this movie almost stopped the action so that Roger Moore could deliver a one-liner.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I didn't
And
feel
there
that.
were
I didn't feel that.
I already had some pacing issues with the movie. The movie felt slow. It felt its 2 hours and 10 minutes runtime. Um, Again, not to say there weren't things I liked or there weren't scenes that I felt moved quickly or were paced well, but overall, I did feel this was choppy. I did feel a slowing down in certain action sequences, like the chase through the jungle, and we had Roger Moore pausing and being chased by about 40 people to tell a snake slithering over his legs to hiss off. Come on now, like. So, yeah. So this one is a lot of, like, very heightened, this is what makes Bond Bond, but we're gonna take it to, like, the next level.
Okay. Okay.
And so Octopussy is a hard one for me.
So, when was the last time you watched this movie before
Woof, a
this?
long time ago,
Okay.
long time ago.
Did you remember much from it or what your impression of it was? Did you go into it with like,
Sure.
this is how I remember this film and
I mean, I remembered the gist of the film, um, but I definitely didn't remember details. Like, I remember, um like our kind of overall Russian plot and that they were, a piece of our antagonists. But I hadn't quite remembered how that played out in terms of using Octopussy as a jewel smuggler to finance, um, this whole plan to take over Europe with disarmament talks. Like the specifics of that hadn't quite registered.
right.
And how the two were supposed to be intertwined that way. Um, and it's to me super unbelievable. So it's
Yeah.
probably why my brain skipped over it
Mhm.
in just not remembering that those 2 were interconnected that way because it's pretty weak.
That's what I thought because was watching it, was trying to be quiet for the kids. I turned on subtitles. And then I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I have to be able to enjoy this. I went rewound it some and I put on headphones to watch it. And yeah, like that was one of the weakest things for me is just like the believability of this setup of characters. And there's always that sort of thing like I enjoy when it can be done well, where
Mhm.
like you're being housed by the enemy or something, they kind
Right.
of like treat you well, but you're gonna get it. But that's a very specific situation where that makes any sense
Yep.
other than like we're just gonna have someone kill you right now, or, I don't know. So, the story to me was lacking. I definitely hadn't seen this movie in its entirety in ages,
Sure.
only pieces of it really, like, on TV a long time ago, and so it's been one that was always bored me, and I wanted to come back to it because the anniversary, I thought I've heard some people kind of like more people have been opining over the yesteryear of Bond
Mhm.
recently in the Bond community just because like the way the last one ended and the sort of like serious nature of the
Yeah.
Craig era and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I get
so
that,
that, well,
and yeah,
I'm
what kinda tone are we gonna take for the next Bond, and,
yeah.
do we yearn for some of the playfulness back? Which, I mean,
Hmm.
Roger Moore era is nothing if not playful.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I mean, that's a completely another question is like what can a audience today handle in terms of a movie and whether it's tongue-in-cheek things or a spy movie that is like where's the fun become too much fun
Mhm.
because we have to still believe there's stakes and still be invested in the drama of it and not be
Mhm.
taken out of that too much. So
Mhm.
I don't know. um but I have to say I enjoyed it more than I ever did.
Sure.
So like I did like a lot more of it than I thought I was going to.
Mhm.
um Other than the, like, story that was like, "I don't know about this," I liked a lot of the things. I thought that it was pretty well acted in a number of parts. And it helped me knowing some of the ridiculous things were coming to be
Yeah.
okay with it. Like Bond in a crocodile suit, or like,
The
or
things Roger Moore had to wear in this
Mhm.
crocodile suits and
Gorilla.
gorillas, clown. Oh my
Mhm.
god. Poor guy just put through the freaking ringer in terms of costuming.
Yep. It's on
Ay,
screen now, this dorky
yeah.
knife throwing get up, you
Outfit,
know?
yeah. Woof.
Mhm.
Yep. I
Um,
mean, just rough here. I mean, it was sort of fun. It was a reminder, um, a little bit that, being a spy sometimes is about like disguising yourself. Not usually, I mean, I don't know anything about the actual business of being a spy, but I'm sure not in like these dorky of costumes. But there was, I feel like, some element of that missing through like a Craig era or partially even a Brosnan one as well. They never disguised themselves. It's just, here I
right.
am, I'm James
Yeah,
Bond.
yeah. Mustache maybe. I feel like Pierce Brosnan put on a mustache once. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Yeah, usually it's just no, usually it's just the costume. Usually it's just
Right.
like a military garb or whatever the thing is to
Right.
fit in with the
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Mm.
So some of this was, kind of fun just to be, you know, thinking about it that way.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, Not one of the greatest opening sequences, like or title sequences, song and the anime, just like, it's just kinda forgettable, I think.
The song is fine.
Mhm.
It's not bad, but there's no logic to this, like, ice skater, dancer, something that's happening,
Mhm.
during this, and then just women sort of being naked
Mhm.
and
I'm not
looking
complaining
at
about that
guns.
part, but it doesn't necessarily I get the thematically fit with
Right,
what's going
it
on.
doesn't yeah, it doesn't lend itself
Yeah.
to anything that's happening in the movie.
She used
I
for
mean,
circus
other
stuff,
than
right?
they didn't even really do that, though.
Right, they need
There wasn't, like, knife throwing or juggling or, I don't know,
Mhm.
anything. Like, we didn't even get, like, sparkly sequin outfits. They were just sort of like some naked women,
Mhm.
which, I mean, if we were alluding to Octopussy's Island of Women, kind of, but also too generic.
Sure.
Coulda done more thematically, I think, to lend itself to this particular movie. This could have been plugged in anywhere. It's just generic, I think is
I
the word.
think I mean, obviously, we're dealing with a different time period, special effects and all this stuff or whatever, but,
Mhm.
I think I'd envision something that was, like, basically naked women doing all the different things in the circus and having some
Yeah.
sort of element of the octopus, like,
Yeah.
tearing down
There
and
was
being a
that.
transition or something, you know? Like, he would, like, grab the screen, break it, or and then move to the next thing, something like that.
Right. Or we could have done something fun with, like, smuggling a jewel from woman to woman because there
Mm,
was, like, a whole smuggling there could have been some interesting things to allude to any, I mean, of the ridiculous plot, but the plot of the movie.
yeah.
So this would feel less like you could have plugged it into any Bond film and
Yep.
it just sort of works because there's elements,
Yep.
but it's not special.
Girls and guns and yeah. Right. Yep. Um, I like that you commented in your notes here, you wrote Seiko watch.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That was
It's a
very
very weird
featured, very
one.
prominent. Yep.
Mhm. It
Yeah.
was a, kind of weird, like, aside moment in the Roger Moore era where they used some different Seiko watches as things are becoming digital. So
Mhm. Yep.
mhm.
Yep. That was clearly something they were having fun exploring, like pushing the technology there. And I've
Mhm.
always loved the way watches are always some sort of feature of spy gadgetry.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that was fun.
Um So we talked earlier, we were talking about drinks, about her making her like the cocktail or whatever and stuff. The thing I noticed with that is that
Mm,
she went over to her bar cart and picked up, she didn't mix anything. She picked
nope.
up the thing, she shook it like this, and then it was the most gentle shake ever. So I'm willing to give it, okay, maybe Bond interrupted her. She'd already put all the ingredients in the
Mhm.
shaker, but then you
I
got
know
to
you're
shake
coming.
it.
Yeah.
You gotta shake it. You don't you don't get to
Girl.
just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Little bitty shakes. Nope.
Clearly the script said, like, "Move to bar cart, pour drink," or something, like,
Yeah.
just mhm,
She, I think her name's like Maud something. I can't remember her last name, who played Octopussy. She had a lot of moments where she felt like she was just doing what the script told her to do.
mm,
It wasn't necessarily that she was making the script or the directions feel natural. Like that, the whole
right.
scene where she suddenly, like right after this, where she suddenly becomes angry with Bond and runs away. And the next shot is Roger Moore entering her bedroom and she's stopped by her bed. It clearly felt like the script said stop and pause for Bond by the bed. There was no logical reason why she
That's what
was
she was really doing.
lingering there.
She knew what was going on, and, like, yeah. Hmm.
There was no Maude Adams, thank you. Thank you, Alan. There was no logical flow to that scene other than this is what the script said, so this is what I will do now.
Mhm, mhm.
Ah, yay.
So, I do have to say, again, overall, I did I did enjoy watching the movie. I got something out of it. I liked the chase that was, like, on the, kind of, golf cart kinda thing, you know? I liked that. It's like
Oh, yeah,
chase on
yeah,
the golf
yeah, yeah,
cart, and then,
yeah. Mhm.
he, like, threw all the money in the so that's the part of the movie I liked the most, I think, is, like, in the casino there, he's meeting the other woman, and,
Mhm.
he brings his money out and he's chased and he throws it up. He's got his partner there and they get away through the like false door thing. I like
Mhm.
that whole sequence. I thought that was good. Um, it's yeah, like once we get to it's like the island full of gymnast women that can fight
Yeah.
too, and like you say, the kind of stilted Octopussy. I do have to say it was nice. It's nice in the Roger Moore era. It can be hit and miss with it, and it doesn't
Mhm.
bother me too much because of the tone of the movies. But ultimately, it's nice to have someone that's closer to Roger Moore's age as sort of the
Yes.
Bond girl, the Bond
Yes.
woman. So
I
that's
agree.
good.
So I have several comments here. Um, so start I guess with that one. Yes. One, nice to see nice to see a Bond girl that seems close in age to especially an older Bond, which I feel like you can see Moore's age here. It's not necessarily a critique. Like I had in one of my notes that it almost seems even more British that
Mm,
Roger Moore is older and he's surrounded by a bunch of older men at MI6. It just I don't know, when you
yeah,
think of Britain, you tend to think of older people.
it's
So
Doctor Who and like
it is.
Pertwee. It's like the third Doctor and all the generals and stuff. Like you know,
They're just
good
yeah,
evening,
so
Dad, and like really proper English and just like
right. And they all just in your mind sort of skew older. So somehow
mhm,
it just felt more authentic in a way, even though, like I said, you could just see Moore's age, I think, in some of this. In some of the stunts, I felt like they were kind of tailoring it to his age, which not the worst thing, but I felt like I could see it more.
sure.
Um, as far as Octopussy goes, I really felt like overall she was just a reused and kind of refaceted Pussy Galore. There were several elements of this movie that reminded me of Goldfinger in too close of a way, and I didn't love it. Like this scene in particular, we have a gambling scene where we start out with Bond watching an older gentleman lose to our villain at a game of what's supposed to be chance or luck that they're betting on, and this hapless older gentleman is just coming back for more. Your luck's got to run out sometime. I think it was even almost the exact same line
Yeah,
as
yep.
from Goldfinger. So and then Bond sits down and recognizes cheating is happening and is like, "Ah, I'm going to rectify this situation." So I didn't love that aspect. I didn't love the strong, silent foreign henchman who just crushes an object in his hand. With
The
Oddjob, it's the
dice.
golf ball.
Mhm, mhm,
Oddjob does the golf ball, and
eh,
then here we have
mhm,
Gobinda does the dice. Like I said, now Octopussy with her island of women feels like Pussy Galore with her like whole flying
sure.
squadron of women who can do their like trained thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know, there were some reused elements that I just didn't appreciate. Again, doesn't mean I didn't like things about this movie, but things that I noticed there that felt a little reused and not
Okay.
in a subtle way.
Well, I was gonna say, like I'm looking here, and it was like 29 years between Goldfinger and
Mhm.
Octopussy. So I think it's fair to like that you could have callbacks and sort of things that remind,
Totally.
just watching the Mission Impossible trailer for the new movie, different franchise, but just watching the trailer, I'm like, there are a lot of things in here that are clearly callbacks to the
Callbacks.
first movie, you know, and
Yeah.
so like I'm
And
okay with that generally.
I think they were too many too on the nose, too many like direct similarities. Like Pussy Galore, Octopussy, you both have this like squadron of women. Like I said, like you have a strong silent henchman who crushes, something. You have
Yep.
a gambling scene where I like I said, I think they say the same exact line about your luck's got to run out sometime. It just felt like you could have been a little more inventive about making it subtle.
Hmm.
Because I like a callback, but this was almost like copying.
Sure.
I also am biased. I'm skewed. Sean Connery is my Bond. It's the reason I'm drinking the scotchy scotch as well
So
tonight.
when
He's my Bond. He's my man.
so when you read so when we read uh Live and Let Die,
Hmm.
you're gonna be picturing Connery.
Probably. I
Okay.
mean, I could have the same reaction you do, though.
Hmm.
There are, I think there are elements to almost every Bond performer, and I can't speak to Lazenby either because I just don't remember well enough right now. There are elements to every person who's played Bond that I think they do and represent a facet of his character really well.
Okay.
Like I agreed with what you were saying early on. Um,
Hmm.
like Sean Connery's just got like I think the great swagger. He's just got such natural delivery of his lines when he's being like tongue in cheek or he's being, you know, I don't know, he's delivering those one-liners. They just don't sound as out of place as sometimes Roger Moore's do, where they're almost like shining a spotlight, like, look at the joke we made.
Yep.
Um, but in terms of, like you said, his interactions at MI6 and his sort of more proper Queen's English way of speaking, all of that felt very natural to me in this movie. All of those
Hmm.
interactions or his trading barbs with Kamal Khan, that chemistry seemed very on to me.
Hmm.
And I felt like that was one of the more natural parts of the film, like that antagonistic relationship, but it almost seemed an extension of um, him talking to some of the older gentlemen at MI6. So yes, there's definitely elements of each Bond that I respond to, but Sean Connery for me has more of the total package than anybody else, in
Hmm.
my opinion.
So, how do we think? This is, I think, a maybe an important question.
Sure.
How do we think? Which Bond do you feel has the best chemistry with Q?
Mm,
So, negating new Q.
Q is my
Uh,
favorite. He is actually one of my favorite parts of this film too. His one-liners are much better, I think, than Moore's. His whole,
yeah,
like, "Bond on an island of women? We won't see him till tomorrow," like
yeah, yeah,
or like,
yep,
"Ladies, ladies, not now, later," when they're all
yeah. Maybe
surrounding him
later.
as he
Yeah,
comes out.
that's right.
It's so good. You could just tell he's having a ball.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a absolutely one of my favorite parts of this film. Um,
Yep.
he to me, to get on a little bit of a side tangent, um, is, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking of his name right now, his real name. Just hold
Desmond
on
Lewis,
Desmond Llewellyn, I think is his
Lewin. Oh, Lewin.
Lewin.
Yeah, Lewin.
Um, no, so yes, he to me is, like, part of what makes Bond Bond, the same way that, Michael Gough makes Alfred in the Batman
Mm,
movies. They're, like,
sure.
my favorite
Yeah, that's a
long running
good point.
elements of those, you know what I mean? They're so analogous to each other, and they're just my favorites.
That's a good point because it's nice in those Batman movies to have that carryover, to have that constant. It is nice in the Bond movies to have that as well.
Mhm.
Um, Now, Hugh had such a track record because over
Yes.
so many years, so he
Yes.
doesn't have the competition that we have with Alfred. And to say that, yes, I agree. the original Alfred in the first 4 Batman movies,
Mhm.
Michael will go, right? As was, um,
Yeah, I think it's Go,
he
or I don't know if it might be
Gao.
Goff.
Yeah,
Gal.
Goff, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He is,
Goff.
also my favorite,
Yes.
and,
Best.
and there's a lot of great people that have followed him, you
Mhm.
know? With Michael Caine and, Scar, whatever his name is,
Oh, Jeremy
um,
Irons. Yeah.
Jeremy Irons, and now Gollum. I mean,
Circus,
that's
yeah.
yeah, just
Circus.
that's a pretty good, impressive list,
Yeah.
you know? But there's one true Alfred. I agree,
Yep.
and there's one true Q. And,
Yep.
you know, I mean, while we're on it, I should add. Okay, so firstly, back to the question, who interacts best and has the best chemistry, which Bond with Q? And then what do we think of the new
Ooh.
Q? I know we're like deviating heavily from from Octopussy here, but
Sure, 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 sure. Um, oh god, that's such a good question. I mean, so to address the second one first because I think it's easier. The new Q is likable, and it's nice that they went so far in the opposite direction, of having like such a young Q now. It's
mhm,
it's like having, you know, a much different doctor for Doctor Who. It's
right,
nice that you're not trying to replicate what you did. It's
right,
refreshing, and it's just
yeah,
like,
you can't one
let
up.
yeah, let that be.
Mhm,
Let that be and just take it a different direction, and just don't try to do it again. Try to replicate the magic that you had. Try to
yep,
create new magic. Um, so he is a serviceable, likable Q. It's hard to transition from something that you love so dearly, um, as it always is, but he's fine. I don't think I'm ever going to love Ben Wishaw like I loved um, Desmond. Okay, how do you say it? Llewellyn.
Llewell,
Yeah, okay.
Llewellyn, yeah,
I'm not gonna love him that way, I don't think, but he is solid. He is likable.
okay.
Um, so to the more difficult question, oof, it's hard.
We're gonna have a better view understanding of this as we go through more of these films
More,
to
yeah.
get it more fresh in our minds, but
It's hard because, you know, as sad as I am to say it, I would have, I feel like, loved his chemistry with Pierce Brosnan a lot, except for the fact that he is clearly so much older and just having a little bit of a harder time, you know, getting the range of everything that he used
still
to.
good though,
Still
still
so good.
good.
So good.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But like I said, just having a little bit of a harder time there. This movie is like skewing me, like pushing Roger Moore higher up the list just because I felt like this movie in particular, they were having so much fun. There's just nobody, I mean, both like here and with Michael Goff in Batman, just nobody does like a just ugh, like you childish little boy that I take care of. They just don't do that sort of scorn. Oh god, they just do it so well. Nobody else does it like they do. So here was like a lot of ample
Nobody does it better,
opportunity.
that's what you say.
Nobody does it better. Um, there was just so much ample opportunity for that to be on display and for him to just give all those withering looks and sighs and just like, oh god. Um, Whereas, he doesn't do that as much with Connery, even though, like, that's, an OG pairing that I love.
Mhm.
I'm having a hard time with that question. I don't know that I can give you an answer until we've
I
rewatched some more and I can formulate a
yeah.
better opinion.
My tentatively, I think it's Roger Moore, with Pierce Brosnan a close second, because there is a, like, a really nice, like, I don't know why I like so much the way Pierce Brosnan interacts with Q. Um,
Yeah.
just those are the fun moments, and I think it's done really well. But Roger Moore's type of Bond fits so
Mhm.
well with the
Yeah.
kind of shtick they want to do with Q,
Yep.
and so that it leads to a lot of moments that are fun. Like I not too long ago watched For Your Eyes Only again, which is one of my favorite Roger Moore movies, and up there on the Bond scale for me, honestly. And there was a good moment where Q is on location again, and he's like he's in like a hat, and he's like sweeping on the side of the road or something, and then he takes it off and pulls an antenna out of the thing. You know, he's like on site, and it's just fun that he's there. Like that wouldn't
Mhm.
work in the Brosnan or anyone else's thing. It's
Yep.
just fun that he's, you know, like a part of it and all that.
Yep.
So
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Uh, as far as Ben Whishaw for me, I really liked him in Skyfall. I thought this is gonna be a
Mhm.
fun pairing, and I liked the switch up that I mean, like, it's just how cold but witty he is. He's not
Mhm.
goofy and stuff, and then they progressively made him more, I don't know, less stern, more silly as the films went, I feel like. I took him less seriously. He seemed
Mhm.
like less of a meaningful character to me,
Mm,
and I just
yeah, he was more goofy, like,
yeah,
fumbly, like, British, like,
dork.
quintessential, like, "Oh" yeah, and he
Yeah,
didn't need to be.
yeah. In Skyfall, he was cool. He knew what he was doing. He knew Bond's
Right,
reputation. I'm gonna give you this thing. He didn't talk too much. I
right.
liked it. I liked him off the rip, and then kind of fell away more. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think they tried to, like, inject some sort of, like, personality traits that just didn't need to be there. Not that he couldn't have a
yep,
personality, but he just didn't need to be, like, goofy like this to be a
yep,
human.
yep.
Um, so I was gonna say something and I totally forgot what I was gonna say, and then it came back to me. I think part of the reason why I love Q and Brosnan in Brosnan's Bond era is
Mhm,
because part of his like appeal for me and part of his joy is not only the withering looks and the, oh god, um, but also like the joy he has when they're playing with new gadgets.
mm.
And they can do so much in Brosnan's era. Like, there's such a leap
Sure.
forward in,
Yeah.
like, all of the gadgetry and, like, tricks and things that they do. You can genuinely feel the fun that they're having being like, "Look, I made a car that drives from a cell phone pad," or, just
Mhm,
stuff like that. So, I think that's part of the elevation of their relationship is the possibilities of technology have gotten so much bigger, and they're just like kids playing. And he's clearly a
mhm,
kid having fun, like, "This came out of my brain and I built it. Like,
mhm.
let me show you how it works." So,
The moment I always remember with Q, the Q scene is, he's, Bond's, like, looking around, he just sort of picks up a big sandwich, and he's just like, "That's my lunch!" Like,
yes,
thinking
yes,
it's a trick or a gadget or something, you know, and just
"No,
it's
that's my
stupid and silly, but
lunch."
I like it.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, I do have to say, I see you comment on stunts a little bit for Octopussy. I think the
Yeah.
Roger Moore era stunts are great. Like, obviously, the stunts aren't him, you know? Like, we're not in the Tom Cruise era. We didn't, you know, actors never did what Tom Cruise does. Actors
Yes.
didn't do their own stunts. It's not a thing. Um,
Oh my gosh, it's
it
so
can't
clear when they get on that plane in the end and there's a stunt double just in your face. Nobody tried to hide
I
that.
mean, the picture quality didn't used to be that
Ooh.
good, you know, you just like you did what you could.
Yeah.
And but the stunts themselves during the Roger Moore eras, I think is really good. I
Mhm.
think that there is them driving stuff that's great. They did so much stuff just for the time that did it practically, and skiing sequences, all kinds of
Yeah.
things that I think are just really well done. And I appreciate those a lot more now as an adult, knowing they're real. and watching
Mhm.
that, even though I know it's not Roger Moore doing it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's great. Um, do you have anything else to say about Octopussy? You know, like my overall thoughts is I did enjoy the movie a lot more than I ever have before. I liked
Mhm.
my experience watching it. I was happy to watch it start to finish, like I haven't in a long time.
Mhm.
I liked it more because I knew what was coming at me. You know, I was ready for the camp and the silliness and the tone of movie it was. And
Mhm.
you know, but my gripes would be like, you know, there wasn't a lot of fashion that stood out to me. His Seiko watch is not a watch that was a preferential to me. It's not like real great looking. The plot seemed pretty I don't know, it's a little kind of
Thin.
a little loose there. Not sure if that makes sense. And
It's sad because the plot almost could have been 2 plots that could have been
mhm,
stronger if you developed either one of them. Instead, they just got tied together in this sort of weird, like, mishmash with very thin threads
mhm,
pulling it together, and it's disappointing because maybe this could have been a lot stronger if we just picked one of these and ran with it.
yeah. Like, just make Octopussy the woman that he meets initially, you know,
Yeah,
that's at the when they're bidding for
the
the
auction
Fabergé
at
egg and stuff.
Sotheby's, yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, all of this
And
could have
just
been simplified a lot,
mhm.
and it would have been
Don't need the
stronger.
island of women then, you know,
Mm-mm.
that was
And
underused utilized anyways, other than, like, using them for combat at the end
right.
unnecessarily.
Well, and Octopussy's backstory could have been really interesting. You know, that her dad was connected to Bond and he sort of expected, because he had brought him in, that she was out for revenge. And she's like, no, actually, I kind of appreciated what you did. That could have been really interesting to
Mhm.
explore that connection and tell more about Bond's backstory, her backstory. Missed opportunity. I was really
Sure.
intrigued, and then they just shut that down because didn't have time for that.
Yep. Yep. Um, okay. Well,
Yeah. It was more fun in certain parts than I had remembered. There were definitely enjoyable sequences. Um, it was hard, like you said, it was hard to ignore the plot kind of hanging on by a thread.
right.
And it was really hard for me to feel the pacing slowed down so we could deliver some one-liners instead of those being more naturally worked in. I just felt, you know, right off the bat, we were getting these like puns about Toro sounds like a load of bull, or the one I already said about the snake. Like
Mhm.
it just could have been worked in a little more, and that's one of
Mhm.
the strengths of Sean Connery's era that I wish was translated here as well.